So follow along. We're going to go ahead and make our XY table. Can somebody please tell me what number is going to be in the middle for this one? Will? 0. There's no B. B is missing, so 0 will be in the middle. And let's just use our basic numbers. Let's say we've got -1, -2, +1, +2. And we'll go ahead and plug these in. So 2 squared is 4, and if I subtract 4, it's 0. 1 squared is 1, but if I subtract 4, it's -3. 0 squared is 0. If I subtract 4, I get -4. And because of the way we chose the numbers, they should make a mirror image, so they'll repeat. Those are pretty easy numbers to work with. These are pretty easy numbers to graph. So if you would please go ahead and on your graph paper, let's graph this. And we will need to use graph paper for these. Sketching them is really not a good idea because sketching is very inaccurate, and if we're trying to read a graph to get a solution, being inaccurate is really a bad thing to have. So for this, let's go ahead and on our graph paper, you don't have to rewrite the entire table if you don't want to, but I am for the sake of the example. So we had 0 in the middle, and we had 0, -3, -4, and then it repeats. Before I even graph this, we don't actually have to make a physical graph. We don't have to actually draw the graph to know where the answers are. Does anyone know what the answers are going to be just by looking at the table of values we've created? Before I graph anything, keep in mind we're looking for x-intercepts. You can find them by just looking at the table. We don't have to graph it. We will in a moment. But who sees what the answers are? Raise your hand if you see what the answers are going to be. Okay, Savannah, what do you think they are? 0, -4, that's my vertex. Remember, the number in the middle is always my vertex, but it's not necessarily going to be the solutions in this case. You're halfway correct, though. I'll explain what I mean by halfway in a moment. Nicole, what do you think? -2, 0, and 2, 0, and the reason why is because we're looking for 0. That's why I said this is half correct. It's got the 0 in it. So we're looking for x-intercepts. -2, 0. If you go over 2 and up 0, aren't you on the x-axis? Same thing here. If you go over 2 and up 0, you're on the x-axis. Those are x-intercepts. And just to make sure we all see how that works, we're going to go ahead and graph this anyway. So -2, 0, left 2, up 0, -1, -3, 0, -4, and then the rest of these repeat. And when we connect them all to make a parabola, our x-intercepts are right here. We had an x-intercept at +2 and an x-intercept at -2. So back to the original instruction, solve by graphing. We graphed it, so the solving it is just saying that's where it crosses. So our final answer, we're talking x-intercepts here, so x equals, final answers here, x equals 2 and -2. Or, we talked about this symbol last semester, you could say this is positive or -2. Now, will it always be positive and negative of the same number? No. That's just this example. That's just because the vertex was at 0. As soon as you shift your parabola left or right, you're not going to have positive, negative, the same thing anymore.